These numbers are from a report that the center published late last year called In Motion, a study of Georgia's logistics industry in 2018. The report was created in partnership with UGA's Terry College of Business, and it goes into detail about the size, scope, and strength of the state's logistics industry. I'm not going to read off all the numbers, but you can see that the logistics industry is a substantial and dependable source of jobs, economic activity, and economic growth. And you know, I say that this is what logistics typically looks like, but even now in the middle of a global pandemic, essentially, the logistics industry here in Georgia and really nationally is still very busy. You know, as a little side note, just a quick personal story. So I graduated college in 2009, which was before this year, basically like the worst year you could graduate if you were hoping to get a job out of school due to the Great Recession. But luckily I had a professor who told me about a logistics company. They were a freight brokerage company that was hiring. I had never really heard of logistics before this, but they were hiring like crazy. So I was definitely interested in learning more. And then when half my classmates were worrying about finding jobs, you know, I had one lined up before I even graduated. And that's because no matter how bad the economy gets, people will always need things like food, medicine, and toilet paper. And logistics is how those things get to people. So all that to say that pretty much regardless of what the economy looks like, the logistics industry should still be going strong. Okay, so next slide, so we can talk about the current state of logistics. Okay, so as I'm sure everyone has experienced, COVID-19 dramatically impacted traffic in Georgia. The week of April 5th was considered the peak of the decrease in car traffic. And that week saw about 40 to 50% reduction in the number of cars on the road. As of right now, though, things have mostly returned to normal in terms of car traffic. For truck traffic, in the beginning stages of the pandemic, there was a small decrease, about 10 to 20%, but now it's back to normal. And kind of, actually in a sense, it's almost not back to normal, but in a good way, because load volumes are actually hitting record highs. Carriers were experiencing Christmas level volumes, even during the traditionally slower months of June and July. August is typically considered the beginning of the peak season for shippers to prepare for the holidays, and the freight volumes have definitely reflected that. In the month of September, the spot market for truckload freight available for pickup was 83.7% higher year over year, and truck capacity was 18.2% lower year over year. So essentially there is too much freight and not enough trucks to haul it. For pricing, the contract market is about 30% higher than what it normally is, and the spot market tends to follow what the contract market does. So all of that to say that freight is continuing to flow in and throughout Georgia. Oh no, is this better for feedback noise?
Yeah, we can hear you a lot better now.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I just have to get really close, I guess. Okay, sorry about that. Should I go over what I already presented or just keep going?
I think it was earlier in the presentation. You've sounded good since you started.
Okay, I'll just keep going then.
Yeah, I think you're good.
Okay, great. Let's go into the next slide, please. Okay, so for how COVID-19 has affected businesses throughout Georgia and really throughout the country. So during a CCIM, or a Certified Commercial Investment Member webinar, companies like the Home Depot and Walmart shared that demand planning and forecasting essentially went out the window when COVID hit. For the Home Depot, they told us that they are experiencing record sales with people being at home focusing on home improvement projects. But the usual measures that they use to forecast sales are basically not cutting it. They aren't forecasting like they normally would, and they're essentially kind of just bringing everything back to zero and forecasting from there. One way that businesses have been trying to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 on their supply chains is to broaden and diversify their supply chains. We've seen an accelerated trend towards companies taking kind of like a more holistic approach to supply chain. So that includes carrier diversity, which is very important, and retailers should focus on diversifying their carriers, which includes having a mix of national and regional carriers. Flexibility in fulfillment models is also really important. If one facility ends up having to close due to COVID, a company should have a backup plan in place on how they're going to get their products fulfilled and distributed. While they may have had a backup plan in place before, it may have been more like a, this will probably never happen, but we have a general idea of what to do type of plan, where now it's, this could very well happen and we need to make sure that we're prepared for when it does type of plan. And then companies are investing more in technology. Large companies are investing in robotics and other material handling systems to get product out and also alleviate the labor strain brought on by COVID. And then I think it's important to note that none of these mitigation tactics are really new. They've all been discussed before, but the only thing that's really different now is that they just might be happening sooner, a lot sooner than companies thought they would. So, could you next slide, please? Okay. So now for some new needs that we're experiencing. On the industrial real estate side, there has been a surge of interest. Over the last few years, there's been a growing demand for industrial warehouse space, but it has really taken off during the pandemic. And this is especially true for the interest and demand in e-commerce and food storage warehouses. With e-commerce, it's been steadily growing over the last few years, but now, as I'm sure most people have heard, it's growing exponentially. And COVID-19 has really accelerated that. You know, I can feel pretty confident in saying that most people on this webinar, myself especially included, have probably upped their online purchases over the past few months. But you know, companies, they are facing a challenge to keep pace with inventory and e-commerce during COVID. During a Georgia Transportation Alliance roundtable, the representative from Walmart talked about how they're addressing that issue by adding more ship-to-store inventory, and that they fully anticipate a permanent increase in people shopping online. Amazon is continuing to build out its fulfillment centers and delivery networks, and it's reducing dependence on companies like UPS, FedEx, and the USPS. You know, I'm sure most of us have seen those blue Amazon delivery trucks on a regular basis around our neighborhoods. So shifting gears to look at warehousing on the food side, think about online grocery purchases. So according to Adobe's Digital Economy Index, online grocery stores increased their daily sales by 110% between March and April. Those online grocery retailers, they need the warehouse space to store and distribute their product. So I think we're going to continue to see a lot of interest and a lot of needs in that space, in the warehouse space. Actually, I know at our Department of Economic Development, project managers are fielding a lot of inquiries into that area right now, the warehousing area. I'll touch on it a little bit more on the next slide, but you know, there's been kind of a shift from brick and mortar stores to online e-commerce over the last few years. And you know, just like I said earlier, I think COVID has essentially, it's really accelerated that shift to online purchasing. And we may never go back to the amount that we purchased items in stores versus online. Can we do next slide, please? Okay, so I know all this talk about COVID and the new normal can be a little bit of a downer at times. So I wanted to end on a positive note and just talk about some great things that are happening in Georgia right now. I'm not sure if everyone saw it, but Georgia was just announced as the #1 state to do business in for the 7th year in a row by Area Development Magazine, which is incredible. Their results reflect the rankings that states receive. They're based on weighted scores, I think it's 13 different categories, ranging from overall cost of doing business to workforce development to logistics and infrastructure. And then Georgia ranked #1 in 10 out of the 13, and then they were in the top 5 in the other 3 categories. During fiscal year 2020, which runs from July 1st to June 30th, there was a total of $7.4 billion in new investments made in the state. During FY 2020, economic development project locations increased compared to the prior year. Even though we were in the middle of the pandemic, they still increased. And the state reported a 30% increase in jobs created outside of the 10-county metro Atlanta area. Even while facing a global pandemic, job and investment numbers in Georgia have increased when compared to the same period last year. Between March 14th and July 31st, 2020, 113 new economic development projects have been located. We created over 11,000 jobs and nearly $3 billion in investment. Some of those projects include HelloFresh. They established their very first southeastern U.S. distribution facility up in Noonan. Zinus USA, they sell mattresses online. They are developing their first North American advanced manufacturing facility in McDonough. And then locally, early last month, a 17 million square foot warehouse distribution project was proposed in Ellabelle, up in Bryan County. And then just some more new good news and rankings. Atlanta was ranked #1 tech hub in the US by Business Facilities Magazine, and Georgia was ranked #1 in film production by Business Facilities Magazine. So really great news, incredible year. It makes me wonder what we would have done had COVID never happened. I think the numbers would be off the charts, and it's just exciting stuff. And then I'm gonna finish and go one last slide, please. Okay, so I wasn't quite sure where to put this in the presentation, but because this is an exporter roundtable, I knew I had to share it. So a few weeks ago, our International Trade Division just announced the creation of their Export Georgia USA directory. It is essentially a free marketing tool that provides virtual connections between international buyers and Georgia suppliers. It provides Georgia businesses with the global connections they need to reach new markets and diversify their international customer base. It works because it allows international buyers, they can search for Georgia suppliers of products and services, and it also provides a mechanism for our international trade team to kind of facilitate international business matchmaking for those Georgia manufacturers and service providers. So it currently has, I went on it yesterday, and it currently has about 60 companies in the directory, but it's free to sign up and get your name in there. Someone will vet you. So please visit that website listed, georgia.org/export, to sign up and get included. And that is it. Thanks.